Afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming. It's really a pleasure to welcome you here to CU Boulder, our ninth, I can't believe it, 3-minute thesis final competition. I'm Scott Adler. I'm the Dean of the Graduate School. And I'm really thrilled to have you here for what I consider to be the marquee event of the graduate school each year. Graduate school is home to over 6,000 graduate students across 130 different programs, and our students engage in groundbreaking research and creative work, training to become the next generation of scholars, artists, teachers, and researchers. From astrophysics to dance, they're pushing the boundaries of their disciplines and tackling some of the most complex challenges of our time. Now, this important work is made possible in part because of the generous support of our donors who contribute to fund many of the fellowships and grants awarded by the graduate school each year. Now, if you had a chance to view the slideshow before we began, you saw just a glimpse of our outstanding fellowship recipients. Their accomplishments reflect the excellence of our graduate students, and we're deeply grateful to our donors who've contributed and made commitments to advance research and innovation here at CU Boulder. And yet, much of this remarkable work often remains known only to specialists in a particular field. And that's what makes the 3-minute thesis competition so powerful. It's more of a showcase of research. It's a celebration of effective communications. Today, our finalists will rise to the challenge of distilling complex ideas into clear, compelling narratives to engage, inform, and inspire a broad audience. Now, their journey began last fall with 46 graduate students who embarked on a series of workshops designed to hone their storytelling, writing, and presentation skills, including even a session on improv comedy techniques. After months of preparation and a preliminary competition held in December, we arrive here today with 11 exceptional finalists ready to present their research in just 3 minutes. So to our participants, congratulations on making it this far. Your dedication, creativity, public speaking, and communication skills are already a testament to your excellence. But let's meet our judges first, who all have lots of experience in communication, public speaking, creativity, and dedication. First, we have the Dean of Communication, Dean Lori Bergen, our Dean of the College of Communication, Media, Design, and Information. Thank you, Lori. We have Professor Leo Buchan, an assistant teaching professor in our new robotics program, and was on this very stage just a couple of years ago as a 3MT finalist. We have someone who knows a lot about distilling complicated information for a general audience, our Mayor of Boulder, Aaron Brockett. And finally, someone who's truly an expert at 3MT and at communicating science, Professor Sammy Ramsey, Dr. Sammy, a professor in ecology and evolutionary biology, the Marvin Carruthers Endowed Chair for Early Faculty in the BioFrontiers Institute, the founder of the Ramsey Research Foundation, and most importantly for this event, a 2017 international winner of the 3MT competition, Dr. Sammy. I want to thank all the judges for making time for us today. It's such an esteemed panel. We're really honored. And to our audience, of course, students, faculty, staff, family, friends, and community members, your presence and support are what makes this event so special. Let's celebrate the power of knowledge, the courage of discovery, and the joy of learning together. So without further ado, let's begin the 2026 Three Minute Thesis final competition. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce the MC for today's event, who we have pulled out of retirement, but he remains our MC year after year. Professor Bud Coleman, Emeritus Professor and the inaugural holder of the Roe Green Endowed Chair in Theater, former chair of the Department of Theater and Dance, and former Associate Dean of Faculty Affairs in the College of Arts and Sciences, my longtime and close friend, Bud Coleman.
Thank you, Scott. That's a lot of microphone. I'm thrilled to be dragged out of retirement for this. It really is my favorite event of the year. We are thrilled to have you here to support our graduate students as they rise to the challenge of presenting their research in just 3 minutes. Your presence, both here live and virtual, demonstrates the incredible support for CU Boulder's vibrant community of scholars. The 3 Minute Thesis competition, or 3MT, was founded by the University of Queensland in 2008 and has now grown into a global event, now hosted by over 900 universities in 85 countries. 3MT cultivates students' research communication skills, pushing them to distill complex ideas into compelling narratives for a general audience. To put this challenge in perspective, the average dissertation, now I know you all hit the table sleeping, the average dissertation contains about 80,000 words. Now that would take approximately 8 to 12 hours to read. Now our students today are distilling all of that very complex information into just 3 minutes. No pressure, right? Now this year does mark the 9th anniversary of Boulder's participation in the 3MT competition. Today's winners not only receive recognition, but also cash prizes. First place receives $1,500 and will go on to represent CU Boulder in the Western Association of Graduate Schools competition, which will be held this year in April. The runner-up will take home $750, and the People's Choice Award, chosen by you, will receive $500. Now, the competition rules for today's presentation are very simple. A single, static, PowerPoint slide is allowed, no animations or transitions. Presentations must be in spoken word, no poems, raps, or songs. No props, sound effects, or video files, just the speaker, one slide, and their ability to captivate us. Each presentation must be only 3 minutes. Exceeding the time limit will result in disqualification. We extend our gratitude to the 11 graduate students competing today. By stepping on this stage, they have embraced the challenge of making their research understandable, engaging, and meaningful to a broad audience. A heartfelt thank also goes to our esteemed panel of judges, who will evaluate the presentations today on 4 criteria: comprehension, criteria, engagement, and communication. While our judges will determine the first place winner and runner-up, you will decide the People's Choice Award. As you watch today's presentations, consider which speaker captured your attention, made their research accessible, and sparked your curiosity to learn more. After the final speaker, a QR code will be flashed on the screen where you can link to cast your vote. At its core, 3MT is about storytelling. So I invite you to gather around our proverbial fire to listen to these wonderful, incredibly bright people and to be inspired by this next generation of artists and scholars. Now we have 11 people in the house and in the green room who are, let's just say, quite excited right now. So let's show them some Boulder love and give them a big round of applause. The presentation order has been randomly assigned. So first up, we have Shayra Venkatash, a PhD candidate in mechanical engineering. The title of their presentation today is "The Infamous Cancer Cell Hatches a New Evil Plan to Destroy Bone."
Raise your hand if you've ever gone on a hike when you felt stressed. Should be all of you. We're in Boulder. And I assume a lot of you came here right after going on a hike. So mobility is a big part of our lives. Losing the ability to move freely, that's a huge hit to our quality of life. And it's a consequence we don't often think about when we think about cancer. I study breast cancer that has spread to bone. Now, cancer loves to invade the skeleton. It's one of its favorite places to go, and once it gets there, the bone is destroyed. You can see actual chunks taken out of the bone on an x-ray. That's what it looks like. Pretty gnarly, but it gets worse. Now, since we're in Boulder, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the fact that exercise grows muscle. But did you know that it grows bone too? Pretty cool. Well, cancer messes that up. Well, Shreya, you might be saying, is that all? That sounds pretty bad. I hope it doesn't get worse. Well, it does. Because you might think that the final showdown in this comic book scenario is between breast cancer cells and bone cells. But actually, that's not true. The twist of the knife is that the bone is destroying itself. What? I know. It's pretty crazy. You have the breast cancer cells and the bone cells battling it out, and you might think the bone is losing through this battle, but no, the bone cells are destroying each other. They're pointing at each other, thinking they're the enemy, when in fact, it's the breast cancer cell in the background doing all the trouble. And so, how is it doing this, and can we stop it? Well, what if we could hurt that breast cancer cell just enough that exercise is effective again, that exercise can build bone again, even when the cancer is present? That's exactly what I've been trying to do with my research. I build a physical model of this exact situation, where I create these tiny cylinders made out of the same mineral that's in your bones. I put breast cancer cells in them, and I push fluid through that cylinder. As fluid moves through and moves across those cancer cells, it applies the same forces that they might experience in an actual bone undergoing exercise. And then I apply a really common treatment for advanced cancer patients, radiation therapy, to this system to see if we can change how breast cancer cells respond. And what I'm finding is that actually we can. The breast cancer cells in this system end up behaving less aggressively, less able to manipulate bone into destroying itself. And so this is really exciting because, yes, the bone is destroying itself, but we're moving the focus back onto that shifty eyebrow guy in the back over there, the cancer cell, because that's the real culprit. And in this way, this isn't just another drug that we're using that's going to have a million different side effects. This is something really powerful but simple that we do every day that'll help us get the mobility that we lost, the quality of life that we lost back in our lives. Thanks.
Shayra, for going first today.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's always difficult to be the first one to jump in the pool, but now you get to enjoy all the rest of the presentations.
I know, I'm excited.
Now, I know that you are trained in Indian classical dance, Bharatanatyam.
Yes, that's true.
So can you describe for us what that dance form is like?
Well, it's a really beautiful dance form. It's pretty theatrical. Its foundations, I would say, are kind of similar to ballet, but yeah, it's very theatrical. There's a lot of intricate hand gestures, a lot of striking of the feet. I love it.
And do you have any performances coming up later this semester?
Ooh, I don't know, but I'm planning on maybe doing a short film on dance with my friends, so we'll see. Maybe look out for that.
Excellent. Now, this dance form is over 2,000 years old. What do you think accounts for its popularity over the centuries?
I don't know. I mean, I think at the heart of it, it's storytelling, and because so much emotion comes through, I think it just connects with people no matter what, because at the end of the day, it's just looking at someone and telling a story, and that's what we're doing here, right?
That's what we're doing here. Excellent. Like many Boulder residents, I know you enjoy hiking. So do you have some favorite trails that you like to hike on?
Oh, that's a good question. I should probably have thought about this more, considering I talk about hiking in the talk. There's the Anu White Trail in North Boulder. I really like that one.
Ah,
Okay.
we have fellow lovers of that trail. Excellent. Now, I also heard that grapefruits are your favorite food.
Yes.
And
They're great.
And can you describe how you decide to tackle one?
Okay, well, you have to cut it right down the middle and then like peel it like you would an orange, or else it gets everywhere. And you have to like take the skin off, I think, so you only eat the flesh. That's my.
Well, we have hints for everybody. Now, I also understand that you accidentally shot an arrow into your parents' bedroom. Now, there's a story.
Yes. Yes, I did do that. But in fairness, they bought me the bow. They took me to the archery lessons. That's their fault, right?
Yes, so you see how creative thinkers our graduate students are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Muhammad Ali, a PhD candidate in journalism. The title of their presentation today is AI Anchors, Real Concerns, Journalism at Crossroads.
Do you know your face is for sale? Yes, I'm talking about your face. Right now, TV networks around the world are buying and cloning real human faces to build the next generation of news presenters who never sleep, never take restroom break, and never need paid holidays. But here is the unsettling part. What if you see the next news anchor who looks exactly like you? This is not science fiction. It is happening right now, and it is transforming the journalism in ways we have never seen before. And that's why my research asked a simple but urgent question. How are these AI anchors being adopted, and what does this shift mean for the journalist and audience? To answer this, I conducted a comparative study in two completely different media systems, the US and Pakistan. I conducted 30 interviews with journalists, newsroom managers, and audience to analyze how technology, newsroom practices, and audience perception shape the adoption of these AI anchors. And the initial findings revealed something striking. In US, audience were skeptical. They said AI anchors sounded fake, robotic, and even creepy. But in Pakistan, viewers could not tell the difference between the real and AI anchors. So why this difference? Because AI literacy is not distributed evenly across countries. In places like US, where people question media, they also question technology. But in places with low AI literacy like Pakistan, AI can slip in unnoticed and unquestioned. Some of the other findings that truly stood out are, one, journalists fear that AI will not only take their jobs, but will also erode the core principle of journalistic integrity. Second, AI can spread propaganda outside of traditional journalism boundaries because people see them as technology, not as political actor. Third, companies are literally buying real human faces to make AI anchors appear more trustworthy. And behind this all, there is one powerful force, economic pressure. AI anchors are marketed as the perfect cost-cutting solution. So what does this all mean? If we are not careful, AI anchors could shape public opinion in a very subtle way. They could distort democracy, amplify political agenda, and replace the human judgment that journalism relies on. My research suggests that before we hand over news to machines, we must strengthen AI literacy, regulate AI identity use, and protect the role of human journalists. Because in a rush to create the perfect presenters, we risk losing the most essential part of the journalism, the human beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move into the light.
Yeah.
So, like Shara, you enjoy hiking. Now, what are your favorite trails?
So my favorite trail was I went to Hanging Lake, and that hike I still remember is the best one so far for me.
So, no fans of Hanging Lake? Okay. Now, Ali, I know that your favorite foods include chickpea rice and biryani. Can you describe those dishes for us?
Yeah, so these are two very traditional dishes, and why I like them most is because my wife and my mother, she can cook very well, so that's why I love them.
And so, can you describe them a little bit?
I don't know how to cook.
We'll get back to this one in a second. Now I know you were born and raised in Pakistan, and that you had several probably challenges moving to the U.S., and one of them involved food.
Yes.
So please tell us about making your first omelet.
Yeah, so before coming to US, I never cooked. I never knew how to cook an omelet, and I didn't know that in omelet you put the oil. Without oil, the omelet burned, and there was a smoke everywhere. And when my wife came back to home, and she said, "What you did?" I said, "I don't know. I made an omelet, and this is what the situation is." So,
So do you cook now?
yes, now I can cook. Yes.
So what do you like to cook?
Only omelet.
No. Yeah, if you get one down, you just stop there. Now, I also understand that you have horses.
Yes,
How many?
I have 4 horses.
And what kind are they?
So they are, Arabian, Italian, and then there is one mixed breed, which is a common one in Pakistan.
Are they here in Colorado?
No. They are
in
back
Pakistan.
in Pakistan. Yes.
And what are their names?
Yeah. So Shadow, Sparky. The third one is, I'm forgetting the name of that one because I recently purchased. So, sorry, this is the effect of the PhD.
I know. It happens. It happens. So I was going to ask if you had practiced your 3MT speech to the horses, but they're in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So
But
did you put them on speakerphone?
no. So in fact, I think the credit goes to my kids and my wife, because they are the sufferer of this practice. Every time I used to see them free, I used to tell them that I have to practice.
And so can your kids recite it now?
Yeah, they are better than me.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Ali.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next up, we have Yorick Ondeweg, a PhD candidate in physics. The title of their presentation today is From Pendulum to Atoms: How to Keep Clocks Ticking Without Disturbing Them.
My research aims to improve the precision of atomic clocks. But in a way, the problem that I'm trying to solve actually predates atomic clocks by hundreds of years. For most of history, the most precise clocks in the world relied on the regular swinging motion of a pendulum in order to measure the passage of time. In order to keep the pendulum swinging, a mechanical part called the escapement gently pushes it back and forth. Although these pushes are necessary to keep the pendulum swinging and the clock ticking, they do actually interfere with the timing of each swing, making the clock less precise. Now, this problem was eventually more or less solved by the invention of a special type of escapement that only applies the pushes to the pendulum when it's at the very bottom of its arc, where the effect on timing is minimized. But today, this problem is back in a different type of clock. Today, the most precise clocks in the world measure the passage of time not by counting swings of a pendulum, but by counting vibrations in atoms. Atomic clocks are used for all sorts of things. They can be found in sensors on the ocean floor, in power stations in the electrical grid, and on satellites. In fact, there's 4 on every GPS satellite. By the way, so many American industries rely on the timing signals from GPS satellites that it's estimated that the GPS network enables $1 billion per day in revenue to the US economy. The type of atomic clock that I work on is a next-generation design called a 2-photon rubidium clock. It uses a laser to gently push the atoms back and forth to keep them vibrating. But just like the pushes from an escapement on a pendulum, these pushes from the laser light on the atoms actually interfere with the rate of vibration, making the clock less precise. Atomic physicists call this phenomenon the AC Stark shift, and it's the problem that my research aims to address. Together with my research group, I have implemented a technique that uses smart electronics to correct this unwanted AC Stark shift. It works by alternating between using a bright laser and a dim laser to keep the atoms vibrating, so that the electronics can estimate how the clock would tick if there were no laser at all. We've measured that implementing this technique reduces the sensitivity of our clock to the AC Stark shift by a factor of 1,000 and improves the overall precision of the clock. By solving a centuries-old problem in a modern technology, we're helping to usher in a new generation of atomic clocks for applications such as GPS and the power grid, and other critical infrastructure that we all rely on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Yorick.
Thanks.
So Shayra and Ollie enjoy hiking, but I understand you enjoy backpacking. So what favorite locations do you have?
I do. I really like to backpack in Indian Peaks Wilderness. I feel like it's kind of easy to get permits because they hold a couple for until 3 days in advance, and I don't plan well enough ahead to claim my permits like 6 months ahead.
That's totally fine. Now I understand that you have a favorite food. What is that?
I like chicken parmesan.
And why?
It's the ultimate comfort food because you have fried chicken and lots of carbs.
Yeah, exactly. Now, to help you get through the stress of pursuing a PhD, I also understand that you enjoy gaming. So what are your go-to games?
I do. Right now, I mostly play Apex Legends. Oh, and Baldur's Gate 3 with my buddy Jack, who's in the audience.
So do we have any fans of those two games? Okay, good. I also understand that you have a unique condition known as graphene color synesthesia. So can you describe that for us?
Yeah, so synesthesia is basically a condition where where sensory input of one kind triggers a response of another kind. And so for me, what that looks like is I strongly associate symbols like letters and numbers with specific colors. I've had the same color associations for each letter like my entire life.
Wow. So are there any favorite acronyms or words or equations that you like the color combinations?
No, not really, but I think it does help with math. Like when I was doing coursework to write equations, it helps me keep track of the different symbols when they're all different colors.
Wow. Thank you so much, Yorick.
No problem, thank you.
Next up, we have Mackenzie Bowden, a PhD candidate in environmental engineering. The title of their presentation today is Detecting Hidden Hazards in Our Water.
Clean water seems simple. Turn on the tap, fill up a glass, and trust that it's safe. But every drop you drink is the product of complex decisions about risk. For decades, regulators have tested potentially toxic chemicals one at a time. That's like tasting a single ingredient, but claiming you tasted the whole recipe. But our water is never a single ingredient. It contains a complex mixture of pollutants from industry, agriculture, households, and even natural disasters like wildfires. This is what I tackle, detecting those hidden hazards and risks in our water that single chemical analyses overlook. Because mixtures don't behave like single chemicals. Constituents can amplify each other's toxicity, cancel out, or even combine into something entirely new, but potentially more hazardous. When we only test chemicals one at a time, we can risk missing these interactions. So we can't figure out how the chemicals in our water actually affect our health. My risk assessment strategy has two main parts. First, assessing biological response to see how life reacts to what's in the water. And second, creating chemical profiles like fingerprints that reveal the hidden patterns behind the chemicals causing those reactions. I take water from treatment plants, taps, streams, or even sewers, and expose that water to living cells. Now, these cells activate many of the same stress response pathways as our own bodies, so they're excellent early warning systems for chemical stress. If something in my mixture activates those pathways, cells will change their growth or metabolism, and these biological responses signal a potential hazard in that water. At the same time, I analyze the chemicals themselves, creating those unique fingerprints for each sample. Now, these fingerprints translate complex chemical mixtures into interpretable patterns, so I can compare how those cells are responding to what's actually causing those responses. And by comparing the fingerprints, I can look and see which chemicals are consistently present when cells are stressed. And this tells me those are the chemicals most likely to be responsible for hazard and risk. But what does this look like in practice? When I applied this approach to wildfire-impacted waters, I found that samples contaminated by burnt PVC pipes were always more toxic than anything else. But here's the twist. When that burnt PVC was present with burnt wood, that toxicity was masked. And these observations are prime examples of how mixture interactions would have completely been misinterpreted by those single chemical tests. Now, clean water is essential for everyone. A changing climate and emerging contaminants are making our water quality more unpredictable than ever. By detecting the hidden hazards in our water sources, my research is giving communities clearer, more confident answers about their water safety. So when you do fill up your water glass from that tap, you can trust what you're about to drink. Thank you.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
So I understand that after earning your bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, you did an internship in Madagascar.
I did, yes.
Do you have a story from that time that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, from Madagascar. Well, I went to a Catholic university, and so while I was in Madagascar, they were getting a new cardinal. And so we got invited to his ordination ceremony, but to this day, I never met him, and I have no idea what his name was, but I got to go to his party.
Parties are important. So a common thread among many CU graduate students is a love and need of spending time outdoors.
Yes.
Now, I understand that you're a big fan of national parks.
I am.
Do you have some favorites?
I think I'm always really partial to Acadia up in Maine because that's the closest one to where I'm from in New England. But I've also had some pretty crazy experiences. I went whitewater rafting by myself in New River Gorge, which was pretty interesting during my master's, just because I needed some time off. But yeah.
Yeah, when I need time off, I get like a cup of coffee. Not whitewater rafting by myself. Oh my gosh.
That's fun.
So Shara, Ali, and Yorick all enjoy hiking. What are your favorite trails?
I am always partial to Sanitas. It's a hard one, but I used to live at the base of it, so I could walk out my door and just hike and go back home without having to get in a car or anything. Wow. So it was a nice kind of loop to be able to do.
So did you time yourself?
I'm not the fastest hiker. I like to take my time.
No. Enjoying the scenery is more important than time. That's certainly my theory.
Yes.
What is your favorite food?
I'm a really big fan of curry because, like you mentioned, I was in Madagascar and I've spent some time in Asia, and it's always just a nice food that transfers between cultures, so you get to taste all the flavors.
So do you have a favorite country's curry?
I'm really partial to a lot of the Indonesian kind of coconut curries, just because I used to have host families that made them for me. So I have like that home cooking.
Yeah, we won't tell the other countries. I hear that you love to do something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is looking for new coffee shops.
Yes.
What are your recent finds?
Recently, because I've been writing my dissertation, I've just been staying to my tried and true places.
Which are?
Definitely Trident Cafe in Boulder.
Yep.
Yep.
Can't go wrong with Trident.
Nope.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Funny Arwin Wadali, PhD candidate in architectural engineering. The title of their presentation today is The Challenge of Electrification, Light Through Sabre.
In the time it took for you to get here today, your house has emitted more carbon into the atmosphere than the car that drove you here. Where is all of this coming from? Space heating. Gas furnaces and boilers are still the most dominant heating systems in our buildings, and they burn fossil fuels every time we want to stay warm. More than half the houses in the US still use natural gas for space heating. So what can we do about this? Well, let's look at one successful example in reducing emissions in the transportation sector. Electric vehicles have shown that switching from fossil fuels to electricity can dramatically cut the amount of pollution per car. So is there a similar shift possible in buildings where we move from gas-based to electricity-based heating? That question is the central theme of my work. There's a piece of technology that's more than a century old that can deliver 3 times the amount of heat as the electricity it consumes. A heat pump. A heat pump generates heat by using electricity as a vehicle to transfer heat from outdoors to indoors. It's like an AC in reverse. Well, if heat pumps are so efficient, why don't we all have one already? It's not that simple. Heat pumps cost more upfront. Electricity costs more than gas, but here's the big one. Our homes weren't designed to run on high-power electric heating. Switching to a heat pump would cause the house to draw significantly more amount of electricity, something the electrical panel and wiring would not be able to handle. So how do you sell this to a regular homeowner? That is where my research comes in. My core hypothesis is that small, targeted improvements called energy retrofits can reduce the amount of heating required by a house, so much so that a smaller sized heat pump becomes viable, avoiding costly electrical upgrades. These energy retrofits could be anything from improving wall insulation, changing window material, sealing air leaks, smarter controls, etc. Together, they can transform the amount of energy a building needs, but no 2 buildings are the same. They have different layouts, constructions, heating and cooling systems. No 2 homeowners are the same either. Some might prefer low cost, while others might prioritize comfort or sustainability. So there's no one-size-fits-all retrofit package. To address this issue, I have built Sabre, a unified software platform accessible to everyone that can help users model their buildings and find the retrofit package that best fits their priorities. Sabre has demonstrated that in some buildings, electrification only makes sense when coupled with other energy retrofits. It has given us insights into the kind of policy changes that we need to see in order to meet our climate goals. By 2050, the world has pledged major reductions in carbon emissions, and nearly 80% of the buildings that exist then already exist today. The future is here. The question is, are we ready to meet it? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
So I hear that one of your hobbies is that you like to dance.
I do, yes. Something I picked up in the last year and a half, actually.
Oh, what kind of dance?
I do salsa, swing, West Coast swing, bachata. Yep.
Yeah.
Every Thursday at the Avalon. Shout out to the Avalon.
There we go. So you know where to find him. I also read that one of your hobbies is that you like to read. Any book titles recommendations from you today?
Okay, so I would recommend everyone read 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Oh.
Always a good recommendation. I'm reading The House of Spirits right now by Isabel Allende.
Fabulous.
So yeah, I love a good Murakami, I'm sorry.
No apologies, no apologies. None. What is your favorite food?
Oh, I like a good pizza. Would you like a good recommendation?
I do.
So I actually have a mini Excel sheet about this in my head. So I think the best bang for your buck is Pizza Colore, that's on Pearl. But the cheapest one is Cosmos, not the best one, but that's the one that university likes to get anyway. Audrey Jane's is good, but it's expensive. I actually kind of like the Domino's pizza, guys. I'm sorry. The standard Domino's pizza is a good deal. And so yeah. And there's a bunch that I haven't tried even, Alberico's and Borchetta and so on.
So do you cook your own pizzas?
No, I don't, yeah. I don't think I'm that talented, no.
So you
I can make an Excel sheet about it.
Oh, yeah, you could. So what kind of pizza do you like?
It depends on my mood, honestly. So I don't like the deep dish one that Chicago does. I had it and I just don't like it. So a New York style would probably be the one that I would be going for, yeah.
So if you were going to get one today, what would you order?
Oh my gosh. No, it depends on my mood. See, that's the thing. I would know in the moment. I just don't want one right now. But when it comes, I would immediately know I would want to have a barbecue pizza. Or
Okay,
something. I don't
okay,
know.
all right. We'll let you go with that. So I also learned that you once swam 5 kilometers.
Yeah, which is probably nothing on people in Boulder or Colorado. But I did. When I was young and in college, I went and swam a 5K without basically no sleep at night. I was supposed to swim a 10K, but I couldn't because I had like homework or something like that. So, and I was too chicken to not do it. So yeah, I once swam a 5K and no sleep, yeah.
So have you done it again?
No, not really. That was enough swimming for me, honestly. Yeah, I did. That was a lot of swimming, I think.
That would do it for me too.
Yeah, exactly.
You just go check 5K.
Yeah,
I'm
5K,
good.
done. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, bud.
Next up, we have James Cannon, a PhD candidate in aerospace engineering. The title of their presentation today is Measuring Electron Puddles in Our Atmosphere.
Thunderstorms in space rain invisible electrons down into our atmosphere where they form puddles of unknown sizes that then actively destroy ozone. Surrounding the Earth are the radiation belts, which are made up of energetic particles, including electrons. These electrons are trapped by Earth's magnetic field, and they fill a region of space like a donut around our planet. Most of the time, these electrons are bouncing back and forth from the top of the donut to the bottom, guided by Earth's magnetic field. However, lightning strikes on Earth can release enough energy to knock those electrons out of their trapped bounce motion. And when this happens, those electrons then rain down into our upper atmosphere, where they land between 60 and 90 kilometers high, over 6 times higher than planes fly. Once there, they begin to run into the oxygen, nitrogen, and other gases that naturally exist in our atmosphere. And as they interact with those gases, a chain of chemical reactions ensues that ends with the destruction of ozone. So, for climate scientists to be able to predict the effects that these electron puddles have on our ozone layer, and thus our climate, they need to know how much area these puddles cover generally. Unfortunately, because these electrons are landing between 60 and 90 kilometers up, they are incredibly difficult to measure, let alone measure how broad the puddles they form are. So first, to solve the problem of measuring the electrons, I bounce radio waves, similar to those picked up by your car radio, off of the electrons in the atmosphere. Those same radio waves bounce off the Earth's surface, off the electrons again, and like between a pair of mirrors, these waves are guided for thousands of kilometers. Then by measuring how much energy those waves have lost and tracking how that changes over time, I can work out how many electrons there are between where a wave is transmitted and where it is received. A large change to that measurement means there was a large change to the number of electrons along that path. We've run into a puddle. Unfortunately, measuring just one path doesn't let me understand how those electrons are distributed geographically. Did we find a small puddle of a lot of electrons, or a large puddle of only a few electrons? And where along the path is the puddle? And so finally, in my work, I combine 22 crisscrossing paths, all covering the same region, to work out where these puddles of electrons are forming. By looking at which of the 22 paths showed dramatic changes, I can localize these puddles of electrons to particular geographic regions. And so for the first time, I can measure these electron puddles created by thunderstorms in space, all to help climate scientists better predict their impact on ozone destruction and on our shared world. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
I love your bow tie.
Thank you.
I'll do a timeshare on that later.
Absolutely.
While you were an undergrad at Macalester College, you had an unusual double major.
That's true.
What was that?
Yeah, so I was a physics major, which is not going to surprise anyone by the topic of my talk, but I was also a theater major. And there are a couple of ways that can work out, right?
Yeah.
You can do set construction where loads and balancing loads or doing lighting is really, there's lots of physics in that. I like to be on the stage. I like to act.
And what play by a famous Russian were you in there?
I was in Anton Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard.
Very good. So we need a ooh. So say that again.
Anton Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard.
See? Theater. So you probably know that Chekhov what was his day job?
Oh, I actually don't know this.
He was a physician.
Was he? Wow.
Yeah, so he also is what I like to promote, believed in STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So thank you for also being a STEAM advocate.
Absolutely, yeah.
At McAllister College, you also co-founded a high-power rocketry club.
That's right.
What is high-powered rocketry?
Yes, high power rocketry is like, it's an official designation based on the amount of power a motor has. And in our case, that meant that we could fly a couple thousand feet to maybe 2 miles up into the atmosphere.
And the FAA is okay with this?
You have to get special permission, you have to be a part of a rocketry club. So our on-campus club was a part of a broader professional club, and they had designated times which we could come out and launch our rockets.
Oh my.
And they would coordinate that with the FAA. We went out to some farmer's field who loved to do this for us.
Wow.
And yeah, just in Minnesota, we had about 7 different colleges all come out and launch the rockets together. It was a lot of fun.
So is there a high-power rocketry club at CU?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They do things a little bit more sophisticated than I was able to do in undergrad.
Well, it was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Like many of our participants today, you also are a hiker. Any
true.
trails you recommend?
I'm going to echo the Andy White Trail. That's one of my favorites, and whenever my family's in town, we always do that one.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I understand you have 2 cats.
That's true, yes.
They are?
They are Bear and Bun. And Bear is our little black bear. He's a medium hair black cat. And then Bun is our dust bunny. He's a long-haired gray cat. And especially as a kitten, he just looked like a dust bunny.
So did you practice your 3MT speech
They have
to
heard
them?
this a lot. Yes.
And do they know it?
I don't know. Bear would meow at me and chirp at me at certain points.
Right.
Maybe he does get some of it,
Yeah,
but I'm not
speed
sure.
up, slow
Yeah,
down.
exactly, yeah.
They're always a critic. What is your favorite food?
That's such a great question. I have such a sweet tooth. It's got to be a dessert. It varies by season. I'm going to say brownies right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And do you make your own brownies?
Yes, often. Just from a box mix, nothing from scratch, but yes. Yeah.
Box is fine.
Yeah.
You're a graduate student.
Exactly.
Thank you, James.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Laurie Lawson, a PhD candidate in information science. The title of their presentation today is "That is Not How I Remember It. We're Lost in Translation."
مرحبا اسمي لوري وتاريخي يختلف عن تاريخكم. Even though Arabic is the 5th most spoken language in the world, less than 1% of Americans speak Arabic. Many people believe the internet bridges this gap because we're able to see perspectives and information that we didn't have access to up until this point. That's what I believed. Until I was studying conflict and peace in Amman, Jordan. There, my professor asked, "What do you believe is the reason for 9/11? Of course, we had a lot of answers for him. But what we weren't expecting was for him to tell us that all of our answers only came up with a fraction of the context for the event. I immediately took to the internet, looking across English and Arabic to try to find the whole story. But when I'd encounter platforms like Wikipedia, I'd see very different things when I would cross languages. This discrepancy is at the core of my dissertation. In my dissertation, I look at Wikipedia and ChatGPT in English and Arabic to see if we're interacting with different information. I specifically do this through the lens of website features, such as wiki links and algorithms. And I use every method available to me to do this. I use quantitative methods, such as natural language processing, and qualitative ones, such as thematic coding. In a part of my dissertation, I even propose new methods that anyone can use regardless of whether or not they speak multiple languages. A clearer example of the discrepancy I'm investigating lies in the Arab Spring. When we look at the Arab Spring on English in Wikipedia, we see many wiki links to Western concepts, such as Barack Obama or political science scholars. When we look at the Arab Spring on English Wikipedia, we see wiki links to local concepts and local events. This contextualizes it within country, as opposed to the regional phenomenon we often discuss in English. And unfortunately, ChatGPT doesn't reconcile these differences. Because of the data that it's trained on, ChatGPT's algorithm believes the dominant narrative is the English one. And whether you prompt it in English or Arabic, the output comes out about 90% the same, and we're seeing very little of the perspective I saw on Arabic Wikipedia. This is important. I'm not here to solve world peace, but I am here to wave my hands and get anyone I can to pay attention to this. We are having very different conversations about the same events. This has repercussions on the national and international level. But with my dissertation, we can begin to investigate these discrepancies and ask questions we haven't been able to before. This becomes especially important if someone comes in, as I did earlier, and says in Arabic, "Hi, my name's Lori, and my history is different from your history." Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you.
Thank you. So when you were an undergrad, you focused on computer science, physics, and Arabic.
And Arabic.
So how did that unusual combination come together for you?
So I came out of high school, and I only knew two things about my life. One, I wanted to play golf. I played golf in undergrad. And the other thing was that I wanted to study physics. And then I found myself in this teeny tiny liberal arts school, and a lot of opportunities to study different things came up. They also had a really intense language requirement. So I started taking Arabic my freshman year, and they had a culture of, if you're studying Arabic and don't go to the Middle East, what are you doing? So I lived in Jordan for a little while, and in the meantime had picked up a couple coding classes, fell in love with that too. And then I became a sociophysicist at one point. It all just kind of led me here.
So out of all the languages, why did you choose Arabic?
I'm really bad at Spanish.
And the next logical language
it was
would be
it was
Arabic.
German or Arabic, and the Arabic professor, shout out to Stas, is very charismatic. He really knew how to just rope us in. He worked.
The importance of good teachers. Yes. So what led you to then study peace and conflict in Northern Ireland and the Middle East?
A similar thing. I knew we had this culture of you had to be in the Middle East if you were studying Arabic, and I found this program that allowed me to do both. I had visited Ireland previously on golf trips and knew I loved it, so like learning more about that country while being able to also study the conflicts that were happening in the Middle East, it just seemed like the perfect combo. Yeah.
Fantastic. So when you take a break from your computer, you enjoy skiing and rock climbing, but more recently, you've gotten into knitting and sewing.
Yes.
So tell us about that new love.
Oh my gosh, it's literally just anything that I can do to get off my computer. And then it got a little cold, and so I wanted to do something inside, and my neighbor actually taught me how to knit, and it's amazing. Yeah, I don't know how to
So what
say it.
are your most recent accomplishments?
My friends are gonna make fun of me, the fact that I'm saying this right now. A lot of my friends are having babies right now, and so I wanna make them little baby hats so badly.
Well, that's fantastic.
And so that's what I'm knitting, is I'm knitting little baby blankets and little baby hats.
No, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh. So what's your favorite food?
I've been waiting for you to ask me this. I said this on the sheet, and my husband's gonna laugh at me. My husband makes this dish called lomo saltado. It's a Brazilian dish. I don't know where he learned about it. I don't know what goes in it. All I know is that there's French fries and steak, and that's all you need to get to my heart, honestly.
Simple is good.
Yeah.
Fries and steak.
Yeah.
What's not to love? So do you still play golf?
Sometimes it's, I have a dissertation hogging up most of my time right now. But yeah, when it's warm out, I like to. It's nice.
So do you have a favorite golf story?
Oh, That's a great question. If you play golf, this is a very silly story. When I played golf in Europe for various trips, and I was playing in Scotland, playing St. Andrews, the old course, very famous golf course. My dad and I got in on the lottery, and we go up. One of the holes is like you're coming back towards people. And I hit this golf, I was in my prime, everyone, keep that in mind. I was just playing a lot of golf. I hit this shot, it's a good one, it's on the hole, it's like right next to the hole. I'm walking up all confident, I think I'm 13, and I hear some man yell, "Oh my God, not only is it a girl, she's young." And I was like, thank you. Still a highlight of my life.
I think that is the appropriate response a lot of times, which is thank you and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up, we have Ben Hamill, a PhD candidate in materials science and engineering. The title of their presentation today is Looking at Nanocrystals.
This is me. I'm a nanoscale photographer. I use a powerful electron microscope to look at tiny crystals. But why? What are these tiny crystals? And why is it so important to image them? These tiny crystals are semiconductors, materials that control the flow of electricity. Just like we can build dams and canals to harness rivers, the semiconductor industry builds elaborate gates and channels to control that flow of electricity. This is critical for devices like computer chips, solar panels, and even light-emitting diodes or LEDs. The problem with conventional semiconductors is that they're made with huge crystals that are challenging and expensive to produce. The crystals I study are extremely small. Think about how thin a human hair is. The crystals I study are 100,000 times smaller. They're only nanometers in size, and so we call them nanocrystals. Nanocrystals are easier and cheaper to make than those huge conventional ones, and they can be more efficient. And we can use chemistry to tailor their size, shape, and color. In fact, you can go to Costco right now and buy a TV that uses semiconductor nanocrystals. Now, while selling TVs is great, I think we can do a lot more than that. The key is to make nanocrystals more efficient and brighter. If we can make them brighter, it will not only make our TVs better, but it will enable the next generation of computer chips and solar panels. To that end, my research focuses on the structure of nanocrystals, such as their size and shape. The structure of nanocrystals influences how electricity flows through them, and this is important for properties like brightness. To measure the structure of nanocrystals, I use this powerful microscope called the Titan. It's more than 10 feet tall and capable of magnifying more than 1 million times. Microscopes this powerful are really new, and so my research provides a new lens on how nanocrystals work. For example, in the middle of the screen, you can see 2 different photos of nanocrystals. The one on the left has sharp, well-defined facets, and it emits light brightly, like a twinkling diamond. The other one is jagged and it isn't as bright. In my other work, I use X-ray techniques. X-rays coming off the crystals, and I measure that with detectors in the microscope. And that tells me what elements are on my crystals and where. Overall, my research tells us about the structure of nanocrystals, which influences how electricity flows through them. I think we can do a lot with nanocrystals, and the many uses of nanocrystals depend on us looking at them to understand how they work. My dream is that someday I will look at nanocrystals so clearly that I will see every single atom. Once we know how the world is built down to the atom, there's no limit to what we can make. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Hey, bud. Thank you.
Thank you. So, like most of the 3MT participants, Ben also enjoys hiking. So, do you have some trails you'd recommend to the audience today?
I'm a really big fan of the Anemone Trail. I do that one all the time.
And where's that?
That's a new one. It's kind of by Sanitas. It's a little bit left of Sanitas. Yeah. And you can kind of see, it's like, there's those red rocks that are kind of like the Garden of the Gods, but like the mini Boulder version of that.
It's right behind them, and it's right by the canyon, I think, too. It's
Okay.
on that side, yeah.
I'll have to
Would
check
recommend.
that. I'll check that out. Now, you also like to bike.
Yes.
Where do you bike?
To work. No. I usually combine it with other stuff. Sometimes I just go around in circles. I like the creek path, obviously. I mean, I just kind of wander. I will say one of my favorite things to do is to combine it with another one of my hobbies, which is playing disc golf. It's just really fun. Like if I'm feeling stressed out or if I really need some time off, I'll just put on some headphones, get on my bike, go to the disc golf course, and do that. So it's kind of a combination of things.
No, that sounds definitely good. Like Funny or Win, you are also an avid reader. What titles would you recommend?
Yeah, one book I really enjoyed recently was The Catalyst. That's a book by Tom Cech, who is a Nobel Prize winning professor at CU Boulder. And so I'm a big nonfiction fan. I really like reading about places I've been. So yeah, that's really cool. Right now I'm reading All the King's Men, which is different than where I'm from. But I don't know, it's an interesting book. And I really would like to read Beloved next by Toni Morrison. That's on my list.
Do we have any Beloved fans? Yeah, so encouragement, yes. That's a good one to do next. What is your favorite food?
My favorite food is chili rellenos.
And why?
Well, I don't know. I'm from New Mexico. I love green chili. And I love cheese. And I love fried food. And then you combine that all into one food item. And I think that's all you need.
It's just kind of perfect.
It's just kind of perfect. Yeah, exactly.
I am so with you there. Now, I introduced Ben today as Ben Hamill, but his full name is Benjamin Franklin Hamill. So what is the origin story behind Benjamin Franklin?
Yeah, so, well, my parents were thinking of lists of names, and they had completely different lists, and none of the names matched except for one, which was Benjamin. And my parents are both from Pennsylvania, and Benjamin Franklin is a huge character there, so they named me after him. And it's been such a cool name to have. Like I've tried to be Benjamin Franklin before, like in middle school. I've read about Benjamin Franklin. I went to the school he founded, the University of Pennsylvania, and they're obsessed with Benjamin Franklin. So like, it's just been very cool being it. And then sometimes I still get these twinges where it's like, I feel like I need to fly a kite somewhere. And so like, it's been such a nice gift, but I really would say it just comes down to like my Pennsylvania roots and yeah.
So do you have a favorite factoid about Benjamin Franklin?
Oh man, I should have prepared my things. I don't know, I used to know a lot of Benjamin Franklin quotes. I think what's just so interesting about Benjamin Franklin is his broad interests. Like it's hard to pinpoint him on one specific fact about him. It's that he's such a global, interesting character. And you know, I feel like in kind of the spirit of the 3MT, I think if he were here today, he would like this 3MT competition. I think it suits him.
I think so too. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, bud.
Next up, we have Kithrik Runjan, a PhD candidate in creative technology and design. The title of their presentation today is Enabling Digital Creativity Through Physical Materials.
What if I told you that you could draw something on that competition pamphlet in front of you and turn it into an animation before I finish this talk? Or fold it up to make a game controller for Mario Kart? My research reimagines how we create and learn with computers outside of the screens by bringing in physical materials like paper into our creative technology interactions. With the help of a camera, like the one on your phone or laptop, and these QR code-looking markers that you can print out easily. For example, I designed Cartoonimator, a toolkit for making animated stories out of drawings on paper, just by taking a few photos with your phone. Like this skier going downhill being chased by a giant snowball, partly the reason why I don't ski. For more intricate character animations, like this one-eyed monster waving high, I built Rigadoodle, a tool that lets you bring your characters to life by making physical skeletons for them and moving it in front of camera. I've also worked on platforms that enable digital interactivity with common craft materials, like Beholder, with which a group of high school students built this skateboard-looking game controller for playing Subway Surfers, just out of cardboard and no electronics. With these tools and platforms, I study how paper, a ubiquitous and familiar material, can be a medium for what I call creative computational thinking. This involves computational thinking skills like algorithmic thinking and pattern recognition, but also creative problem solving and design practices. Over the years, I've conducted several workshops with participants ranging all the way from elementary school children to grad students, and I've qualitatively documented not only what these tools enable them to create, but also how the interface fostered this creative computational thinking. For example, in many of my workshops, I've had participants creatively break the tool to extend the possibilities. Like this group of undergraduate students who cut out the paper template to put their faces into the animation. Or this 8-year-old who put together 2 object cards to make a very tall character. Or my advisor who made the skeleton out of cut up pieces of string to make a very flexible dragon animation. My research contributes these tools and platforms for creative learning that have already been used in real classrooms and informal learning spaces like libraries. And I further developed insights about how we can design such computing environments that are intuitive, expressive, and open to experimentation. With these, I show how by enabling people to be digitally creative out in the physical world, we can help them transform their relationships to technology from being a passive consumer to active creator. So my question for you is, what will you create? Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Hello.
Thank you. So I understand that one of your hobbies began when you found your grandfather's camera from the 1970s.
Yes. Yes, so I like to take analog photos or film photos. I would like to think that that began before this resurgence in film, but I'm not sure. I just found this camera a few years ago, and I was like, this might be cool to run a roll of film through it, and it works. I guess that kind of contributes to my stuff doing analog and paper-based, but yeah. Film cameras are great.
Yeah.
I would recommend that. They're very expensive now, or like
Yeah.
film is very expensive.
Yeah,
but
film. Yeah.
Not a good hobby while you're a grad student.
No. So do you have more than just your grandfather's camera?
Yeah, since then I've collected a couple. Some work, some don't. Some stop working after a while. It's a hit or miss, but that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, very good. What's your favorite food?
So I love dessert. I like having a lot of different sweet things from different places and usually weird things. And I knew you were going to ask me this question, so I for the last 2 days I was thinking more about my answer than my talk, honestly. But yesterday I was at a friend's for dinner, and I had gotten this 2 pints of ice cream with very weird flavors. One of them was bay leaf cheesecake.
Okay, say that again.
Bay leaf cheesecake. That leaf, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure people have wondered before what a bay leaf tastes like. I cook Indian food, and you're supposed to put that in almost everything. I couldn't, until yesterday, tell you what it tastes like. So if you want to know, go get that ice cream.
Get the ice cream. And what was the other flavor?
It was peach jam and butter biscuit or something like that.
Wow.
Very nice. Yeah.
But I also, so this may have been a couple of weeks ago, that you found a strawberry shortcake croissant.
Yeah, that was amazing. No, as I said, like I like sweet stuff, but I like to find new weird things. And this was one I had a few weeks ago when I filled that out. At the time, that was my very cool thing that I tried. It was really good. It was down at from the Edgewater Public Market. They have a really nice bakery called Black Box Bakery.
Wow.
Highly recommend.
Now that made me pause. A strawberry shortcake croissant.
Yes, you tasted all of that in that one croissant. It was amazing.
That's amazing. Now, when you were a teenager, you had a unique relationship with the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this was, I don't know, early high school when one of my friends had picked up how to solve a Rubik's Cube. And I learned through all these videos and things that exist online, the good old age of YouTube. But I was like, mostly when you start learning how to solve a Rubik's Cube, you try to get faster and faster. And that wasn't very exciting to me, so I was like, I'm going to find weird Rubik's Cubes and try to learn how to solve them. And at a point of time, that was my peak. I could solve 14 different types. Not anymore. I still have some of them on my desk, and they're not solved. And
They're just there.
I was like, 10 years ago, I would have been able to, but not anymore.
So I am so out of it. when I read that there were 14 different kinds of Rubik's Cubes. I was like, what, was I raised by Wolverines? I only know of one. So what are some of the other kinds of Rubik's Cubes?
That's a great question. Actually, I should have predicted that. there's many, right? There's the 3x3, which is what comes to your mind. That's the original. Maybe the others shouldn't be called Rubik's Cube because of copyright issues, but there's like 4x4, 5x5. You can keep increasing the number in a square shape. But then there's some that are pyramid, some that are trapezoid. One of my favorite ones is square one, which starts off as being a square, but then as you move it even once, it becomes a pentagon on top and bottom, and then you keep moving it to just weird shapes that you can get through it. And
wow.
Yeah, eventually you'll solve it. I can't anymore. That's one of them that's on my table.
14-year-old you did do it.
Yeah,
Who
would have thought?
Once again, you did it, check, moving on. You don't have to do it again.
Yeah.
So in your research, I know you set up experiments working with young students, and that sometimes that they perhaps alter what you gave them.
Yeah. So I mean, I mentioned a few of those examples. I hope I did. I don't remember what I said anymore. But yeah, it's always fun because I take these things which I design and I'm like, they'll do it as I expect it to, or at least how I've designed it. But then you give something to kids and they'll find 100 other ways to break it. And that's the idea that they broke these interfaces kind of has shaped my research moving forward since. Yeah, it's been really fun. Just that part of the PhD makes it worth it for sure.
There's no accidents, nothing lost. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Rosanna Garris, a PhD candidate in biochemistry. The title of their presentation today is How Do Cyanobacteria Solve the Carboxyl Puzzle?
When it comes to photosynthesis, I think trees kind of steal the spotlight. And if you'll ignore my slide for just a minute, I'll tell you why. Photosynthesis is how trees and plants are able to take energy from sunlight and use that energy to take CO2 or carbon dioxide out of the air, turn it into the sugars that they need to live, and create the oxygen we need to breathe. We know how important hotspots of photosynthesis, like rainforests, are for regulating our global climate by sponging up all of this CO2. And this process of taking CO2 and turning it into sugars is called carbon fixation. But I'm here to tell you that plants and trees are really only part of the picture. It turns out about a third of all of the carbon fixation happening on our planet right now isn't being done by a tree or a plant at all. It's being done by a bacteria called cyanobacteria. What's even more impressive is that this bacteria is capable of doing this while making up less than 1% of all of the things that are photosynthesizing. They use the exact same small cellular machines to do this carbon fixation process as any plant or tree would, so how are they able to be so efficient? And the answer is at a compartment called the carboxysome, which you can see on my slide now. And now the carboxysome is composed of thousands of tiny protein shell pieces that are assembled together around thousands of copies of this carbon fixing machinery. It all has to come together in a densely packed, tightly arranged configuration. And it's really just a matter of bringing all of these pieces together to make the process more efficient and to keep things closer by. It's kind of like how you probably keep your cooking supplies in your kitchen, right? If they're in your bathroom, they're going to be a lot harder for you to cook with. And so all of these pieces are densely packed, tightly arranged. It's kind of like a puzzle. If you wanted to build a puzzle, you would have to start with a pile of puzzle pieces. But there's a couple of ways to go about putting it together. Maybe you start by identifying something unique in the center and you kind of build out. Or maybe you're identifying all of your edge pieces and you're working your way in. Maybe you're doing both at the same time. The carboxysome is a tiny protein puzzle cyanobacteria have to be able to assemble to be able to make the sugars they need to live. And in my research, I'm interested in figuring out how they do that. To study this, we can grow these cyanobacteria at higher levels of CO2, where all the carboxysome puzzle pieces will be present, but they won't have assembled yet. Then we take them and put them into our normal environment, where we can watch all of the pieces click into the puzzle. Using microscopic imaging, we can watch this happen real time. And by comparing how long it takes each of these puzzle pieces to get into the puzzle, we can start to figure out how it is assembled. And so yeah, I think trees maybe did steal the spotlight. In a warming world, with CO2 levels on the rise, understanding cyanobacteria and this puzzle is important for understanding how they can be used to combat global climate change. So next time you take a deep breath, I invite you to think about cyanobacteria and maybe say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. Thank you. So, like Lori, you enjoy sewing.
I do, yes.
What are some recent projects you've been working on?
So I've been sewing for a rather long time, but recently we just left Christmas. So I did some gifts for Christmas. I remade a costume for someone.
What did you make?
I made a friend of mine who does Twilight, is it Twilight Imperium? I don't know what it's called. It's a Star Wars based campaign game that he has a Han Solo costume for that I remade.
Wow. And is this this size person or this size person?
This is adult size person. This is human size person, yes.
And what else?
Well, mostly I crocheted actually this year for Christmas. So a lot of hats and headbands and stuff.
And little baby hats?
No, but I am, my brother might be on the stream, so I can't say anything.
Okay.
He's expecting, or his wife is, so.
Okay, yeah, no, don't give anything away. Like Funny Arwen, you also enjoy dancing. What kind of dancing do you like?
Yeah, I spent my whole life as a ballerina, but nowadays I do a lot of social dancing, so also salsa, which he and I have talked about some, and a little bit of swing dancing and stuff.
Cool. So have y'all danced at the Avalon?
We have not, but we've talked about it, and it's on the list.
Exactly. I mean, I think that should happen now. So I know you're from North Carolina, and people in the South have very particular ideas about barbecue.
This is true.
So what is your take on barbecue?
You know, I like brisket as much as the next girl. I really do. I think what really is my hottest take is that if someone tells me they're having a barbecue, I expect at least half of the pig to be getting cooked. And I get very confused when it's brisket or hamburgers and hot dogs or whatever. Love those things, but they're just not. That's a different thing.
Yes,
so
it's not barbecue.
It's not barbecue. You can call it something different.
So what kind of sauce is your go-to?
So I'm from Eastern North Carolina, so we do vinegar. Yeah, so that's generally my strategy.
And so if there's no vinegar, then it's a no-go?
No, I'll eat other barbecue.
Okay.
I won't turn it down. It's just not the same.
It's just
thing.
not right.
It's just not right.
Yeah. And as we say, it's not right.
It's not right.
I also understand you have feelings about mac and cheese.
I do, mostly because I've eaten a lot of barbecue in my days. I've also, therefore, eaten a lot of mac and cheese because they go hand in hand.
Yep.
And mostly, I just feel like a lot of times the mac and cheese you get around here just tends to be a little flat. So if anyone knows of good mac and cheese around Boulder area, I'd love to hear about it because I personally have not really found any that I absolutely love yet.
So do you like the mac and cheese you make?
Yes, it's the first thing I learned how to cook, and it's been a bog standard ever since. So.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I understand that you at one point broke your nose.
I did.
How did that happen?
Well, you're really not supposed to stand on swings. Yeah. You're really just not supposed to do that, and you're really not supposed to do that when you're using your elbows to hold on to the sides, because it turns out when you go up, you just go down, and the arms go back.
Ouch. And how old were you?
Oh, child. Early, second or third grade, so 7 or 8. So it worked itself out.
It healed. Well, thank you, Rosanna.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Lorraine Loretta B. Smith Glidewell. She's a PhD candidate in teacher learning, research, and practice. The title of their presentation today is From Fish Guts to Fireflies, Finding the Magic of Rural Education in Pre-Service Teacher Learning.
Have you ever seen a firefly? Think back to how it made you feel. That sense of beauty and wonder. Isn't it amazing how something so small can leave such a big impression on us? Fireflies are magical. But this talk isn't about fireflies. It's about that feeling, because that magic is what I felt as a teacher in a small town. Now, my whole career was in fisheries until I got a random call asking if I could substitute teach. I had no license, no experience, and I literally showed up with fish guts on my pants. That's how unprepared I was. I was also unprepared for how much I'd love it. So I became a middle school science teacher in the middle of nowhere, a place that's better described as the middle of somewhere really special. This map highlights urban areas in pink and rural areas in green. Over 80% of Colorado's school districts are in the green. That heart is where small class sizes, the Rio Grande River, and a close-knit community made so much possible for my teaching. And yet, due to inequitable funding and invisibility, rural schools face some of the most severe teacher shortages nationwide. That's how someone like me, covered in fish guts, was able to become a teacher overnight. Recruiting and retaining teachers really starts with how we prepare them. My dissertation is a two-part study that uses mixed methods to explore the relationship between rural education and teacher preparation. For part one, I surveyed over 200 pre-service teachers across Colorado. Most reported learning almost nothing about rural education. So for part two, I started a rural education club for pre-service teachers here at CU Boulder to see what happens when they have a chance to talk about teaching in rural places. And I'm finding that rural education pushes on the boundaries of what they imagine school could be. For example, our club heard from a teacher out in Ouray who described how he teaches math to a whopping 8 students, family style, around a single table. And then in the next period, they all go rock climbing together. This left pre-service teachers saying things like, wow, I didn't even know school could look like that. And maybe you didn't either. My hope is that this research helps people see rural schools as important, especially for teacher learning. Now, I know I may have led you all astray with the slide covered in bugs, but being small has made it possible for insects to do some amazing things. And I think there's something rural about that. There's magic in the small things. We just have to know where to look. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do this. So we know from your presentation you taught science in middle school. Do you have a favorite story from that time?
Probably when I accidentally caught a student on fire, or when someone blew up their hand in rocketry. But yeah, we were doing like tea bag lanterns. You can light it and it floats, the heat, it's beautiful. Unless someone like breathes and the tea bag floats through the air and catches on a student's shirt. So that was pretty exciting. We learned a lot that day. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet y'all did. Oh my gosh. So while you were teaching in the San Luis Valley, I understood that not all of your meetings with your principal took place in their office.
Oh my gosh, shout out to Tom. Yeah, my principal was the best, and something wonderful about teaching in a small school is the staff feels like family. And Tom and I, after work, we'd hit up the Rio Grande on our kayaks, we'd talk about teaching, we'd talk about life, we'd catch fish. I mean, it was great.
That's amazing. So that leads into my next question, that you're a fish person.
I am a fish person, yes.
Who taught you?
My dad. Yeah, my dad taught me how to fish when I was a little girl, and it was my favorite thing about my dad and about my childhood is fishing. It's really special to me.
But I understand you had a rather unfortunate incident with a hook.
Oh, you were asking about that. Yeah. I got a fish hook in my eyeball when I was a kid. Yeah, that's the right reaction. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, and keep going. I mean,
oh,
yeah.
Oh, my family will love this. They are watching on live stream right now. Yeah. Yep. Hi. Yeah, so I was fishing. We were at MacArthur Burney Falls in Northern California. Beautiful. My lure got snagged, and I did the thing that you do. You pull on it. But I'm a very, very unlucky human. And so when I pulled, it came out of the water, clocked me right in the eyeball. Yeah. I could say a lot more, but it's already been a long night for you all. So, yeah.
Wow, oh my gosh. So we'll just move to food.
Okay.
And by the way, folks, we've been talking about food a lot tonight, so I'm sure your stomachs are growling. After our final contestant, which is Lorraine, the doors will magically open and there will be a reception. So all of this is just whetting your appetite for the reception. What is your favorite food?
Yeah, my favorite food is adobo. Most of my family is actually Filipino. They are watching, as we already said. But my brother-in-law, Mike, he makes the most delicious adobo. It is a comfort food. It's chicken, it's potatoes, it's vinegar, it's soy sauce, it's love. It's wonderful. Yeah.
So is it spicy?
No.
No, okay.
Nope.
Sounds fabulous. Thank you so much.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
So let's give a huge round of applause for all 11 of our amazing contestants today. What an incredible showcase of talent, research, and communication skills. While our judges finalize their evaluations, it is your turn to make your decision for the People's Choice Award, because that is in your hands. In a second, we will have that QR code, and there it is. So you're going to have exactly 3 minutes, because that's kind of a thing here today, right? Threes. You have 3 minutes to cast your vote for the presenter which you feel delivered the clearest, most engaging, most compelling talk today. To vote, simply scan the QR code on the projection screen, and remember that this is not Louisiana, so you only get to vote once. Yeah, only vote once. Now, we're going to take a short break to compile the judges' scores. Feel free to grab an appetizer once the magic door opens, chat with our attendees, and we'll see you back in 15 minutes. Once again, another round of applause for our amazing graduate students. Thank you, and see you in 15. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Feel free to, I know still people are standing in line to get something to eat. Just do what you do, but we're going to go ahead and announce the winners. The graduate school here at CU Boulder is home to 6,000 graduate students from around the world, each contributing their own expertise, creativity, and dedication to research. Today, we had the privilege of hearing from 11 of these remarkable scholars and artists. What you witnessed tonight was curiosity, courage, and communication at its best. Now, imagine multiplying the brilliance you witnessed today by 545. You would get 6,000 graduate students. Just a glimpse of the depth of talent within our graduate community. So let's give a round of applause for all of our graduate students. Now, it's my great pleasure to welcome back the Dean of the Graduate School, Scott Adler, to announce and celebrate our winners. First up, now we have some audience participation. You have to do the drum roll. First up, the People's Choice Award goes to Lorraine Glidewell. Next up, the runner-up is Mackenzie Bowden. And finally, the winner of today's 3MT competition is Lorraine Glidewell.
So congratulations to our winners, of course, and all the participants. You all did an amazing job. And this is why this is such an important event for us every year. Bud, thank you for making the time for us this year. Again, he's our long time, since the beginning MC. I really want to thank the judges for all the excellent work and effort that you put into this. Of course, I would be remiss in also not thanking the graduate school staff who put a tremendous amount of effort, and in particular, Haley Herman, who really does this from start to finish. Thank you, Haley. Enjoy the food, and we'll see you next year.